So it's the same thing with these Navajo medicine men. Some are good, some are not good. You'll feel them. You won't tell, but you'll definitely feel them. But one of the best ways you can tell is through the eyes, just like your Bible says, your eyes are the window to the soul. Like I bumped into this one bad medicine man one time in the store. I seen his whole eyes go black. His whole eyes just went black, and he was smiling at me. My grandpa came, picked him up, and started, throwing him on the cooler because I was about to get a drink, and I bumped into him by accident because, we always had beef with these skinwalkers, and there's ways you can take them out, and we know who they are, but they're teaching it down to the newer generation. So, it's very real. We go tit for tat.
Welcome. I'm here with Don Yazzie of the Don't Whistle at Night podcast. So before we even get it started, why shouldn't you whistle at night?
There's a lot of reasons why you should not whistle at night. Being from this continent, North America, South America, a lot of us indigenous tribes share that common knowledge of do not whistle at night, because one of the tribes, they say that when you see the northern lights, our tribes say this as well. When you see the northern lights at night, you're supposed to be quiet. You're supposed to whisper. And if you're pointing at them, the same thing when we see a rainbow, you're not supposed to point with your index, but with your thumb. When you see a rainbow, you're supposed to make that sign because the creator made the rainbow like this. And then the northern lights, they're above us. And when you whistle, these things will come down and they'll seek out who's whistling and they'll take them. Like a lot of the northern tribes, they say those are the ancestors. There's a lot of strange reasons why. There's still to this day, there's people that whistle, and these things will come down lower. They'll come down. It's actually scary. A lot of people have that stories. And another thing is, like, from us, the Navajo Nation, when we whistle at night, the Skinwalkers will whistle back. It's a locator. They'll be whistling before you know it, you'll see two Skinwalkers coming, because the Skinwalker never travels by themselves. They always come in a pair. So you'll see them whistling back, coming towards you, and then your fear will take over that. And there's another reason why you should not whistle is because Sasquatch whistles as well. And when he whistles, it's mainly at night. He whistles, to get your attention. But at nighttime, when he's whistling, it's because he's hunting. So those whistles are indicators. So is the wood knocks. So when he whistles, it's like player 1, player 2, player 3. They're ambush predators. So they're ambushing the prey, the deer, the horse.
Yeah, they're triangulating their prey.
Yeah, or you. If you get caught.
Well, you're whistling. The prey. Yeah, you're the prey.
Yeah, if you whistle, you're interrupting their hunting.
Now, before we get started, can you just give the audience a brief background of yourself, where you're from, and just high level how you got into all these topics?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me on your platform. And my name is Don Yazzie. I am of the Navajo Nation tribe. And, being born from there, being raised there, we've always known about all these cryptids, all these spiritual beings that would be out, and also all these UFOs. Our life has always been full of wonder and mystery, mystery after mystery. And, that's always been a part of us. And, I think that's only fitting for me to be a part of this community and be a part of, be the ones of trying to figure out this mysterious giant puzzle piece, and there's no denying it, like all these experiences that I have and all these stories that I have and, surviving a lot of these, I don't mind sharing information and sharing some stories because it could help somebody out there, that might be in the same situation, or, opening up and speaking about it. Because, speaking about it in our tribe, in our religion is very taboo. We're not supposed to speak about Sasquatch, UFOs, ghosts, anything paranormal. We're supposed to be quiet about it, and, people have spoken up against it for me talking about it, but, it's just, too much things going on out there that we've seen, and I wouldn't mind understanding why. Why?
To advertise on Through a Glass Darkly, email throughaglassdarkly@gmail.com.
Is there a reason, or is there a good reason why there's a Navajo taboo against speaking about this stuff?
Yeah. The main reason why the traditionalists would be saying is, you'll bring that wherever it happened there, you'll bring it into existence here. You'll speak it here. We don't want that thing that's going on over there come over here. You'll mess up the vibes, the energy. They have to start praying, and doing whatever they can just to not think about it because you would invoke it. That's the thought. That's the saying.
Is there any truth to that? Or is it dependent on certain things?
Yeah. Yeah, just like your fear. It's just like the normal sense, There's a saying like you believe in it, it'll happen in Navajo. Because it goes all the way down to witchcraft and it goes all the way down to seeing the skinwalkers come to you and you would lose a battle. And the reason why you lose that battle is because you have fear. And if you have no fear, then they have no power over you because you believe in it. You give them that strength. We see in the physical realm a lot. We're physical people, but we're also spiritual people. We can't see in the spirit realm all the time.
So thoughts create things, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, thoughts in your tongue. You speak things to existence as well. This is how this whole world came about. The Creator spoke everything to existence, just like your Bible does say too. Jesus is the Word. He spoke everything to existence. Same thing. You got to be careful what you think and what you say all the time.
All right, now skinwalkers. What are they? And because this is not something Westerners made up, this is something that's inherent in indigenous culture. I believe Navajo, Hopi, and probably Ute tribes. Where did that, like, what is a skinwalker and kind of where did the knowledge of it come from?
Skinwalker, the original word is Ye'enath Loshi. So it basically means like, them that roam in the skin, that walk around in them. So, it goes all the way back. There's a few stories actually where it goes back to, but, I may not say it word for word correctly, but I'm going to say it as fast as I can for you, the story. So the story takes place a long time ago. The setting is there was a horrible plague going on back in the day. And, our people were dying from this plague, and the medicine men, they were healers back then. They were herbal healers as well. So they're trying to save as much Navajos as they could, but we're losing a lot. And they couldn't get from point A to point B quick enough. They're, trying to get there. And so the thunder god came down. He came down, he seen the medicine men trying to get to places, and he told them, he said, hey, if you guys, I'm going to teach you these songs. I'm going to teach you this way so you can get to point A to point B. So the medicine man, he taught them the chanting. You're singing a rhythm pattern. You have to sing a song specific way, the correct way. You can't get it wrong. So as the medicine men are singing this, they would get picked up and get carried to wherever they need to go fast while they're singing in that rhythm. And, as they started getting point A to point B a lot quicker. They're saving a lot of our people. They managed to save a lot of our people. And as they're doing what they're doing, we have a God of the darkness. He's always been around. So, he's been around a long time. He's one of the gods of the Anasazis. So when they're in their
Oh,
dark
yeah.
little...
It means like the enemy. And is it Apache?
No, it's
It's like the.
Navajo. Not, it means like Anaasaza. That means like another's ancestor, not enemy. And
Okay.
mainly means like another, not us. Like five-fingered being, but not one of our tribe. That's what it is. Ana. That means another. So like another tribe. They say, hey, Ana. It means he's a human, but he's not one of us. He's a five-fingered brother, but he's not Dene. He's not Navajo. So it doesn't mean enemy. We don't really have a word for enemy exactly.
Okay.
We're
Yeah,
just basically.
thank you for elucidating because people say a lot of things and
Yeah, yeah.
you know.
You just, everyone gets lost in translation, but you got to go all
Mhm.
the way back to the original Navajo word because one word can be dissected three different ways most of the time.
Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt your train
Oh,
of
no, you're
thought. You were
good.
talking about the Anastasia. Yeah.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good. Yeah, so they're doing, he's been around. They were doing sacrifices to him. The Anasazi were doing a lot of,
Human
prac
sacrifices, right?
human sacrificing, yeah, and,
Yeah.
sacrificing for blood to see the future, to tell time, like the Druids used to do, the
Mhm.
blood trails, entrails is what they would call
My
Menzi.
ancestors. My ancestors, right?
Oh, yeah, maybe one of you guys made it this way a long time ago. Who knows? Nah, just kidding. But
Yeah,
so
maybe, maybe not. But yeah, the Celtic ancestors. Yeah.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yep, they did the same thing down in there in those kivas. So they would invoke the god of the darkness. And so that their society crashed over time because of all the bad things they were doing. They had a sacred meal called man corn. Just imagine human flesh, but like tamale. Same thing in
Oh
tamales.
God. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And they captured a lot of Navajo kids, which, so the ETs came down and, they made a deal with us. They said, these guys are doing no good things here. You guys attack here. If any are escaping, we'll come down and beam them up. So that's what we did. We went on the offensive, and the survivors that were running around, they got beamed up. And then some of the survivors actually did escape. They became some of the Paiute tribes. And I met some of the Paiutes, they're like, so you're a Navajo? Like, yeah, I'm Navajo. What are you? Like, oh, I'm Paiute. Like, I'm like, oh, nice to meet you. Like, but how do you say your original name? He's all like, you guys used to call us Anasazi. I was like,
Uh,
oh, okay. No, Saza. I was like, hello, how are you doing? So tell me your story. We get into conversations and they would, confirm that story my grandfather told me. He said a long time ago, we got really bad into black magic. We got bad into eating humans and we stole a lot of Navajo kids were eating them. And you guys got mad and attacked us. Not only that, the UFOs came and stole us as well, beamed us up. And his dad escaped. One of his dad's dad escaped because he was running for miles, running and running and running. So they changed their name to Paiute to hide their identity. Yeah, so like the Hopi, their original name is Kisani. So they're like the housekeepers, the ones that took
mhm.
care of the household. So they're involved with a lot of human trafficking back in the day, Chaco Canyon. So it's really nasty
I was
history.
about to say, yeah,
Yeah,
Chaco
it's
Canyon. I
yeah.
know a guy, Dr. David Morehouse was a Army remote viewer, and they actually went there for a mission. They went to, was it Pueblo Alto? Is that right? Is that,
Mm, yeah,
and because they were looking for portals and they saw portals opening in the sky. They didn't see anything coming out, but this was like
yeah.
official. This is not like,
I've seen that
just
before. Yeah.
stories. Yeah, this is what they saw on an official government mission.
You gotta
So
see it in person. It's amazing. It's definitely amazing to see that
it's hard to
portal
get
up in
up
the
there
sky.
though. They don't let people go there. They had to sneak in at night in order to
I
get
think
there.
it's I think it's across all Navajo Nation, not only that area. It's you just don't know
Yeah.
when or where. Yeah,
Well,
I've
they
seen it
also
before.
they ran into two, I believe, Navajo men who told him about this place. Like it was like a really dark place where there was a lot of. It was like a last stand somewhere, and I can't remember what they called it, but it was not in Chaco Canyon, but it was in New Mexico somewhere. And he said he could feel like just it was like the very ground was tainted with this really dark energy. But I don't
Yeah,
know if you. I'm not giving you a lot of specifics there.
that
It may have
happens.
been near like
Tibicu.
Abiquiu, like the city of
Oh,
Abiquiu.
oh, Abiquiu. Okay. Yeah, all over. A lot of bad things happen. So, like certain areas. To me, it feels like there's two explanations, like either the ground or the trees or that area recorded that crime in real time and
Mhm.
it plays out just like an old recorder. Like even the Bible says that. Remember when the brother killed the other brother and his blood was crying out? It's the
Yeah,
same
Cain and Abel.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like along the highways, you hear crying, you hear kids asking for help, and it's heartbreaking. It's really, really heartbreaking. You feel it, and you got all these different ghosts and, these different massacres and areas, they'll follow you all the way home too, especially Anasazi ruins as well.
Do you know anything about Taos? Is there anything dark there? They did a remote viewing session of this house in Taos, New Mexico,
Oh,
where it
man.
was lots of like dark. It was effectively haunted. There were some really dark things that happened, but I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm throwing out a lot at you that who knows.
Yeah, it's a lot of bad things happen. It could be intertribal warfare. It could be not, it could be recent, it's just everything just stays there, it seems like. But going back to the Skinwalker story,
Yeah.
so the god of the darkness has always been around us. So we call him Yei Lejine, the black god. So he's seen what the Thunder God was doing to all the medicine men. He's helping them out, getting them places. And he came down, he offered them more. He said, "You guys learned all that? I'll offer you more. I'll give you more power. You'll be like a god," basically. So some medicine men took that and they started working more for the darkness. So the difference between them would be, like George Lucas, his whole idea of the light side and the dark side is from the Native American stories, the Jedi Knights. So it's the same thing with these Navajo medicine men. Some are good, some are not good. You'll feel them.
Mm-hmm.
You won't tell, but you'll definitely feel them. But one of the best ways you can tell is through the eyes, just like your Bible says, your eyes are the window to the soul. Like I bumped into this one bad medicine man one time in the store. I seen his whole eyes go black. His whole eyes just went black, and he was smiling at me. My grandpa came, picked him up, and started, throwing him on the cooler because I was about to get a drink. And I bumped into him by accident because, we always had beef with these skinwalkers, and there's ways you can take them out, and we know who they are, but they're teaching it down to the newer generation. So, it's very real. We go tit for tat. But this is bodies, though. And it's also involves a lot of ugly, ugly witchcraft. They can open up portals in your house. They'll go under your trailer, under your home. They'll draw some circles. They'll do all kinds of demonic pentagram stuff and all kinds of weird things. Leave bones, a baby's bone with hair inside of it and all kinds of weird things bundled up underneath your house. There'll be ghosts, poltergeists, you name it. All these things will start happening. And you'll start seeing ET peeking in from the window. You'll see ET, the alien, by your bedside. All these things come all together. Boom. It's like a lot of times I want to study it. Right now we have a few studies going on, and it really, really depends on prayer. That's what it all goes down onto.
How
Yeah.
do these medicine men train the next generation? And then we still need to focus, obviously, on skinwalkers. I just want to,
So it's the same thing.
yeah.
The
Okay.
medicine men do become the skinwalkers.
Even the good ones or just the dark
The
ones?
bad ones. Bad ones. Some people may say the good ones know both ways, but they choose to work the light, like the yin yang. They have a balance that they have to keep. And
And
they can rat out which one's doing bad work, bad stuff to you. They'll help you out. They'll get a crystal and help project that person, that bad medicine man. And they'll have little fight fire with fire deal. And
do
that does happen. Sorry.
do the bad medicine men choose to become this way, or are they corrupted along their path, or can it be any number of different ways?
Both. Both. It's their own desire, the lust for power, the lust for control over another person. That's all it comes down to. Is control over you in any way, anyhow, from your thoughts to your body, and just blackmail you. All that. It's just really wicked. Really, it's a death cult. It's a demonic, satanic death cult, is what it really is. People don't want to say it, but we survived it a lot. We stood toe to toe with it. These things are really real, very real, and they're men. They're men with black magic.
how extensive is it? Like, I don't even know what the population of Navajo Nation is, but do you have any idea? I don't know. Like, we can always check afterward. But
Over 400,000.
okay, so if there's over 400,000 people, what percentage do you think, or how many kind of
I don't
bad
know.
and good medicine men are there?
I don't know. The only way you can tell is different communities, different areas you go to. You have to really camp out and you have to really wander around, and you'll see these things wandering around too, especially in the evening time, because they got to get to their secret area. They all have secret layers. There's ways you can find them. You have to be very smart and very fearless on top of it all.
Tell us more about the Skinwalker phenomenon. Like, what does it entail? What does the Skinwalker get out of what they do? I know you did briefly mention power, control over other people, but why would they choose to become a Skinwalker otherwise?
Mm-hmm. Another thing is long life. They get granted to stay here longer, but they have to keep trading their own family member life. They give up their babies, the grandbabies, the great-great-grandparents, their grandkids, my bad. And no one really knows actually how old some of these men are. So at a young age, they would be taught by either their uncle from their mom's side or their uncle from their father's side at a very, very young age, 3 years old, 5 years old. They would teach them a song that song would say, the song would be actually a deal to trade their mother or their parents' soul for a gift for the magic. That's how far it goes back to. Reason why I know this, because my grandfather, his dad's brother, was teaching him. I guess he was always hanging out with him all the time. It was like his day. So in our way, the dad's brother is his other dad. So like you have one father, right? But your father has 5 brothers. So those are all your dads. You know what I mean? So he's always hanging out with his other dad all the time. So he's teaching him these songs, teaching him all kinds of tricks. And he was actually singing a song, giving his own mother's life to become a skinwalker. And his mom heard what he was singing when he was building a fire. He was 5 years old. And his mom spanked him, told him, "Who taught you this song? Who taught you this song?" And he said that, "Oh, my uncle." And he asked, like, "Why did you spank me?" And she told him, "You're singing a song that you're going to give my soul. And you're going to become a skinwalker. Because my father, we come from a long line of skinwalkers. That's how we survived the genocide on the western portion of the Navajo Nation. So a lot of the eastern portion of Navajo Nation were captured and forced to march, the death march to Fort Sumter. And the other ones that were captured were taken to Mexico or to Salt Lake City or to become Utes, because America made a deal that those guys can take as much girls as they want, kids as they want. So a lot of us on the western side, we had to resort to our magic to hide and run. We hid all the way from the Abajo Mountains to Moab, all the way down to the Grand Canyons and all the way back up again. We're going back and forth for 9 years. And we had to fight guerrilla warfare a lot. And not only that, we had Sasquatch around too. He helped us scare a lot of the cavalry off. And some of our tribe that were hiding in the eastern side, they resided to the same thing too, to witchcraft as well. And they also had Sasquatch protecting them. So, like we had a lot of war chiefs that were never captured. And that's where some of us came from. My wife comes from one of the chiefs as well. And my ancestor hid from with the chiefs. So, that's where a lot of us come from. These were a lot of my stories that I'm sharing, and a lot of knowledges that I carry is because of all these family. And my mother's side, my father's side, both, all of us, we used to be involved in that because, everyone was trying to kill us at one point. One time, the Navajo scalp was worth $10. The women and children, the slave market was worth the most in the world at the time. They were selling a lot of our people off the city of Mexico. So we had to do what we had to do to survive. And all this I see this now as more of a educational standpoint. The crimes of humanity. The chance of survival is very slim, but There's people out there that misidentify a Skinwalker, think that he's a cryptid, but it's not. He's a man with magic, a sorcerer, if you will.
What kind of forms do these skinwalkers take? Or what can they take?
Any form they desire.
Like another person?
Notice.
Like
no,
they can no.
no. Animals, owls, ravens. Ravens are their spies. They use ravens for spies to keep track of you, and they'll tell them if someone's coming near their lair. The ravens will tell them. If you can feed a raven, you make a raven your best friend. The raven will be there for you all the time. So, they use the ravens. Most times they have to lay out a skin. They have a fire going. They have multiple men there. They're singing. They're chanting. And one guy takes off his clothes and he gets ready while they're singing in a rhythm. He runs and he jumps and he rolls across the skin. He comes out to a buck or an elk or a bear or a wolf or a coyote. There's also horrible forms where they'll come out like a pig with a dog and a human mixture, and he's levitating off the ground. There's even some skinwalkers where they're in normal clothes, the plaid button-up shirts, the Wrangler shirts, the Wrangler jeans, flying on the Navajo carpets fast. It's just like that. They travel around like that.
Do they ever attack people?
Yeah. They all have missions. They all have jobs that they're doing. They get paid off to do, say like, here's the example that happens a lot on the reservation. So this one family moves into this area where this one area has a lot of family members or they're related clan-wise. And this other family moves near them with their livestock that's not related to them family or clan-wise. And one of the family members doesn't like them. Just takes one, say, oh, I don't like this guy. So he goes to the head man that does their medicine man, the evil medicine man. He goes to him, he offers them money, jewelry, guns, silver, whatever, and he's like, get rid of that person over there. I don't like him. And that medicine man says, okay. So he goes over there and he kills the whole family with a strange sickness. Or he drives them all insane and they all end up on drugs and offing themselves, or, having them all go insane and they end up in an insane asylum, or they end up homeless and insane. So it's not one. They usually, the main target, they save him for last. They keep that one man, normal while he watches his whole family go nuts around him. Yeah. And he's the last one. Or sometimes it'll be a horrible accident. They off that person. Mysterious accident. Freak accidents.
Does the FBI ever spend a lot of time in Navajo Nation investigating some of these things?
Oh, yeah. We got FBI, U.S. Marshals. We got the CIA. We got the Men in Black here that will be...
Wait, CIA?
Yeah.
I guess... Because they're not supposed to be operating inside the United States, but Navajo Nation technically is not the United States, is it?
No, we're sovereign supposedly, but we're still on federal.
I mean, if that is legally the case, the CIA can operate within Navajo Nation.
Yeah,
I never even thought about that. So why the hell would the CIA be in there?
Woo, we got a lot of things. We got Lizard Man. We got a lot of UFO crashes here and there. We actually have Navajos that actually kill these aliens. They actually have a ship parked outside their house, and they shoot these ETs, or they'll beat them to death with broomsticks. We got stories like crazy, and these Men in Black will show up. These government agencies will show up quick to cover up. And the Navajo Police Department, the Navajo Rangers are all part of it. A big cover up. That's all it is. And the reason why I know all these is because, I did the footwork. I spoke with a lot of people. I've been in many homes. And a lot of the times they said that the police tells them to be quiet or they get buried. They have all their horses, cattle, sheep slaughtered, and they have evidence of these creatures around. So, it just gets stranger and stranger.
Does the FBI ever conclude anything, or do they just...
No one tells us. No one tells us nothing. No one tells us nothing. They solve a crime, they don't tell us. There's no transparency with us, even from within our own government. And yet we pay 3 taxes. So it's really unfair, living on the Navajo Nation a lot of times. But the only thing
Well, to
that,
be fair, the United States government is exactly the same way, right? We pay
yeah,
taxes. And they don't. Not only do they not tell us what's going on, they lie to us actively.
yeah.
Which
And then
is
for us, they tell us to be quiet, go home. Yep, that's it. And then they'll say, you need anything? And we're like, no, but I have a question. They'll get in their unit and take off. That's how the transparency is here with our government and the law enforcement here. But they're all just lapdogs at the end of the day.
Have you had any personal encounters with skinwalkers?
Yeah. Yeah. My whole life, back when I was a child before my grandmother was here, or before my grandmother passed away, I slept one night with the window open. I forgot to close it. We're supposed to close the window every night, no exceptions, because these guys will come to the window and feel you, and they'll cut your hair, especially where your hair swirl is at. If they can't reach your hair, they'll take a piece of your clothing, just with any attachment of you, just to place a curse on you. In my case, they cut my hair, my swirl. My mother came next day, she got after me. She woke me up in the morning. She's like, why didn't you close the window? You slept with the windows open. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. She was getting after me, lecturing me, she was standing in front of me. I was looking up at her, and she was lecturing me, and she stopped and she grabbed my hair, and she felt it, and I just seen the look on her face, it's like, her jaw dropped and the look of fear. And she's like, no, your hair is cut. They got your hair. And that's when I realized that I'm in for a ride. I'm in for a ride.
Why
Yeah.
do they do that to people? Is it just to gain leverage over them, or is it just they're malicious?
It's a place of curse for you to get sick and die, to kill you, or sorry, to off you, to end your life.
But why? Just because you left your window open? Like, why would they kill random people like that?
It goes all the way back to my grandpa. He stole a well-known medicine man that was famous in our area. He stole his bag. I guess that medicine man was drunk, and my grandpa took his bag because every medicine man has a satchel with them, their tool bag. So he stole his bag and he took it all the way home. This was before I was born. So they had beef long time. And he took it home. He told all my mom, all her siblings, like, come, you guys are going to learn something today. This is very real. I took this off this medicine man. He's a skinwalker. So they all gathered in the living room. He dumped out his bag. He found his dentures. He found a couple pair of his dentures and jewelry, hair, all kinds of different clothing, panties, what looked like fingernails, toenails, and it smelled like a decaying humans inside of that bag. It stunk. So he was digging around, showing everyone each tool. What's the reason for this tool? This is curse for this. He was educating everyone. So it goes all the way back to then. And when I came around, I was the only grandson. So I was a target automatically that this beef was going on. I had no say in this. I was just brought here like we all brought to this world. So, in
So
that night,
you said they took you for a ride. What
yeah,
what happened after that? After you lost some hair from the swirl?
I went to sleep, and I don't know how to explain it to you, but if, like a lot of us that get our hair cut, that very night, we fall into a deep sleep, and we would see through the hair. We would see through the extension that was taken from us, would gain eyes, and we would be in a cave, and we would see this person. Well, in my case, I seen this lady. She had her hair covering her face. She had a pepper hair. Her hair is really curly, and she was laughing, and she had my hair like tied up in a bundle like this, and she was spinning me in circles, chanting death chants in Navajo to me, saying, horrible things, basically saying I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die, or sorry, I'm not gonna be here anymore. Where my foot's no longer gonna be making imprints on the earth anymore. That's what they were saying. That curse, the death curse. So the death chant, my bad. So, like days went by, I couldn't drink any water, I couldn't eat anything, and whoever would come closer to me, I would get dizzy. Like I wouldn't spin around physically, I would just be inside like someone spinning me on a merry-go-round constantly. And I would just grip the bed and cry. And so they would leave the room. That merry-go-round felt like it was like I was on a constant slow spin. It felt like someone was picking me up by my feet and spinning me in circles. It was horrible. It was very horrible. And, I guess one night I managed to be in a deep, deep sleep. And my grandmother placed me in another room. And she laid down in that bed where I was laying. She had her hair curled all the time. She curled her hair a lot with curling iron. And she was drifting off to sleep, and she felt someone touch her hair. And she jolted up, ran straight to this light switch, turned it on, and she seen that medicine man's grandson in the corner of the roof like Spider-Man, just hanging out in the corner. And she grabbed the broom, started smacking him, and she was chasing him out. She chased him out, and 3 days later, my grandmother died, and that boy died. And, my spins all stopped.
Which boy died? The grandson of the medicine man?
Yeah.
And this is the bad medicine man that was there with the spider. Why did he die along with your grandmother?
He was learning how to be a skinwalker, and my grandmother seen his face, and she told everyone his name and what happened. And 3 days later, and like a lot of us, that I was the one supposed to be leaving. I was the one that's supposed to be not here, but she took my place. So that's how it goes a lot here on the reservation. Our life expectancy does not exceed 31 for the males.
Seriously?
Yeah, we have shorter life expectancy than the males in North Korea. It's pretty crazy.
And are there any natural reasons for that?
There's a lot of natural reasons that can tie into that, like alcohol abuse, drug abuse, overdose, a lot of violence on the reservation, a lot of murders, a lot of unsolved murders going on. There's a lot of bad people, and there's also the cartel operating on Navajo land too.
Oh, really? So like Sinaloa?
Yeah. There's a lot of drug and human trafficking as well. So you got all this going on.
Plus the supernatural stuff you're talking about.
And the spiritual, and, there's, it's, I can go on for days, but, so that's part of the reason the Skinwalker's job is to place curses on a person's family as well. So, like, they would place a curse on your son. He'd be an alcoholic. He'd be a womanizer. He'll beat his kids, like that. Or they'll go to a preacher, go to his pulpit, and place curses similar to that, saying he's going to start sleeping with all the women in his congregation. Stuff like that. They'll place curses on vehicles so you can have an accident. So like stuff like that. And then
what are the good medicine? Oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Then during the day, they'll go into the astral realm and spy on you. So they don't sleep too. They're always tired. There's no rest for the wicked.
Yeah, that's literal. A literal term for that.
Yeah.
What about the good medicine men? What do they do? How come, are there enough of them to counteract some of this stuff?
They're out there. There's probably, they're around. There's my friend's story of his dad he was a Navajo Nation police officer, and he was learning. Well, let me go back. Before he became a police officer, his first wife's father was teaching him all these becoming a medicine man, teaching him the good way. And, he was teaching him all these rites, all these songs, and all these healing, and all these ceremonies. And he's like, okay, I taught you all this thing. Now your price is your firstborn son, and I'll teach you the real magic. And he backed out. He's like, no, this is wrong. I'm not giving you my firstborn. This is evil. You're evil. And then that medicine man said, okay. And he flicked his hand like this, and he went blind. He lost his eyesight right away. And he was blind for a few years. And when he was blind, he became an alcoholic. And he went and found his second wife, my friend's mother. And she took him home, and I guess her father was a medicine man as well, a good medicine man. She introduced him to her father, and he told him what happened, the whole story. And he went and wiped I think the same deal. He grabbed dirt, spit in the dirt, and wiped it on his eye. Same thing Jesus did. And he could see. And he started teaching him how all to combat the bad side. Like, there's a lot of ways you can do it. There's a little, you would call white magic, like you would use it for good for those bad ones. I won't say it anymore. I won't really tell you how to say it because I don't do it anymore. So, there's a way where, okay, here's the example. So the Skinwalker would come by your place, and you're a kid and you would see this thing, like, why does that man look like a dog? Why is he over there watching us? What is wrong with him? You don't know, it's your first time seeing a Skinwalker, right? You go inside, you tell grandma, she comes out and she's like, hey, that's so and so. She goes inside underneath the wood stove, fire bearing stove, there's cedar ash. We always have to have cedar ash. So she grabs the cedar ash and she places it like right on her nail, her thumb, the ash tip, and she says a chant, and she flicks the ash, and you see the ash come off her thumb normal. And then as the ash is falling to the earth, the ash turns into an arrowhead, and that arrowhead flies to that person. You hear it connect, and you hear that person go, ah, and he runs off. You'll see all his blood trail. Just stuff like that.
Have you ever seen one, a Skinwalker outside your house?
Yeah, outside my grandmother's as well, and on the highway, driving while we're racing. So one of the ones that I can tell you is like I was 13 years old, and so I was with half of my family, my grandmother's family, and my grandfather's family. They're different because my grandfather's family are Navajo traditional, and my grandmother's family are Christian. And so I was with my grandmother's family, the Christians, and they had this huge revival tent, right? Where everyone goes inside for revivals, tent, revival camp meetings, all that. So we had to stay at that tent because, like I was saying, these Skinwalkers, they come and they place curses on the seats. They go into the center of the tent, place curse. They go to the pulpit. They touch their hands. They do whatever they got to do, And all us men have to stay there, all us boys. Most of the time, we'll all have rifles, and we'll all have spotlights and flashlights because we have to take care of it. And, we always stuck at threes, we always had the buddy system. And so we were going out back of this tent one time. I was with my uncle and one of my other relatives. He's a year older than me. I was 13. He was 14. My uncle was like 17 or 18, 17, I would say. We're walking out the back of the tent. This was probably like around 11 at night, I would say. Full moon. Full moon's really bright. Stars and everything. And we walked out back of the tent. We're chatting. I was the one chatting. And, I heard my grandpa's, 80s Chevy Chevrolet, the shocks, the struts, you hear something like weight jumping off, you hear that, make that noise, and we look that way, and we seen this guy coming down from the back of the truck, and half of his leg was a coyote's leg, and he had whole coyote's leg and his upper torso was a man's torso. And he had a lot of jewelry, sterling silver and turquoise, rows and rows of jewelry. And he had on his hands, he had a lot of rings on. And on his bracelet, he had a lot of bracelets on, all silver jewelry. And he had a Navajo blanket that was over him. He had no shirt on. So, and he had a coyote pelt on. And he had a white face paint on with some symbols on his face. So he was coming down. It looked like he's underwater. Everything was like this, coming down slow. And he didn't land on the ground. He was 2 to 3 feet off the ground. He was standing there looking at us three. And my uncle, he was like, "Oh my gosh, this Skinwalker." He turned and ran, and my other relative next to me, he ran back into the tent. And I was staring at this man. And we're staring at each other for like a few seconds. And I heard what sounded like a rifle or a thunderclap. I heard that, and I seen like a yellow lightning bulb flying down the dirt road. It covered 5 miles within a few seconds, and it looked like Flash running. Yeah, that was my first time seeing the Skinwalker.
All right, I think now is probably a good time to end this episode, and then we'll get into more of it in the next one. But you had me like enraptured the entire time. So, and it sounds like I haven't even scratched the surface on the number of stories you have. So anyway, appreciate you. I know my audience is going to love this. I think there's not enough of this is out there in the ether yet. But anyway, I appreciate you and thank you for coming on.
Oh, no problem. But yeah, man, I had fun. Nice meeting you. Nice chatting with you.
Yeah, we'll talk again in the next episode. But anyway, looking forward to it.
Yes,
thank you, man.
Yep, no problem, brother. Have a good day.
You too.
If you enjoyed today's video, please hit like and subscribe, and also hit the notification button so you can be notified whenever I post new content. Thank you. Now, if you're enjoying the channel and you want to support it, there are several things you can do. In fact, there are 5 things you can do. The first thing you can do is just buy my books. I got plenty of books out in the market right now, and I would prefer that folks buy a book rather than giving me direct support, because they get something out of it. They get a real tangible product. The second way you can support me is by becoming a member on YouTube or becoming a patron on Patreon. And just go to either site and it'll explain everything. The third way you can support the channel is by checking out my merch site, which is here. There's plenty of stuff that you can get to support the channel. And I'd appreciate that you have it and can wear it. Not only do you help support the channel, but you also help promote the channel, and I appreciate that. The fourth way that you can support the channel, and this is really easy, is anytime you want to buy something on Amazon, literally just go to the description below and click on any link, literally any link. The channel gets a cut of that, and it costs you no extra money. You just go through the link, as I'm part of the Amazon Affiliates Club. The fifth and final way you can support the channel is through donations. Now, I don't prefer these because it's more of an expression of gratitude, but you don't really get anything out of it as a subscriber to the channel. However, if you decide to do these options, there's 2 options. There's Buy Me a Coffee, which is a separate site, and there's also, you can go through YouTube with either a super chat, super sticker, or a super thanks. Again, I prefer Buy Me a Coffee because that organization takes less money than Amazon does. But either way, I appreciate any support you are willing to give the channel. So thank you very much, and keep watching. I really appreciate it.